It's the D-Day, and the D-Day is here. The deadline for the additional 25% tariffs, which will be imposed on Indian goods by the United States, that deadline ends today. Indian exports in America will be levied with a 50% tariff rate henceforth. Now, what are the industries that at the moment will be impacted the hardest? It's the textile industry, those who are sending out shrimps, gems and jewellery, leather industries. They have already started to bear the brunt of the tariffs coming in from the United States of America. Asserting that it's the right to protect national interest, safeguarding strategic autonomy while buying the Russian crude oil, India is looking to counter the impact of these high tariffs. A key meeting was chaired by Prime Minister Modi to soften the blow from these tariffs. Emphasizing India's strength, Prime Minister Modi very clearly lashed out at the economic selfish policies of the United States of America and assured to keep and to prioritize India's interest. US President Donald Trump earlier justified the 50% tariffs by pointing out India purchases oil from not just oil but even defense equipments from Russia.
मैं गांधी की धरती पे से बोल रहा हूं। मेरे देश के लघु उद्यमी हो, किसान हो, पशुपालक हो, हर किसी के लिए मैं आपको बार बार वादा करता हूं, मोदी के लिए आपके हित सर्वोपरि है। मेरी सरकार लघु उद्यमियों का, किसानों का, पशुपालकों का कभी भी अहित नहीं होने देंगे। दबाव कितना ही क्यों न आए, हम झेलने की अपनी ताकत बढ़ाते जाएंगे।
Very hopeful that we will find a way to conclude a satisfactory, mutually beneficial free trade agreement with the United States early rather than late, and that would certainly take us to the next step of the visit of President Trump to India, a meeting of the Quad leaders, and I think really setting us back on track.
50% tariff is a big number. It will impact our exports, the dollar volume, and also it would imply back end in India, it will mean job losses in some sectors. However, India, I think, is taking a holistic view. One, the government is trying to, and the industry itself is trying to diversify and open up new export markets. That's one. Also, the country itself, there is now a push to improve our own productivity, make our goods more competitive for global standards. So it will be a mix of steps taken externally by India and internally by India to face this hardship. But yes, some sacrifices will have to be made.
I think it will maybe impact the business, but in a very temporary manner. I think both countries are still in the negotiations, in the discussions to have a win-win deal in the bilateral agreements. And I am sure that both the governments will actually, reach a very good, fruitful agreement, which is mutually beneficial for both. So maybe there is some temporary, hiccup that will come, but I think I'm sure both countries will reach to a win-win agreement.
Tariffs are obstacles to free trade, wherever they are, whether it's on the Indian side, whether it's on the European side, whether it's on the US side. So we would always be in favor of reducing tariffs to a minimum level.
It's the US President Donald Trump who has once again claimed that he personally intervened to stop the nuclear confrontation between India and Pakistan during heightened tensions between both the countries. This when Operation Sindoor was underway. Speaking during a cabinet meeting at the White House, Donald Trump said he threatened India with steep tariffs and refused to proceed with the trade deal until the conflict was resolved. Listen in.
And I'm talking to a very terrific man, Modi of India. And I say, what's going on with you in Pakistan? Then I'm talking to Pakistan on trade. I said, what's going on with you in India? And the hatred was tremendous. Now, this has been going on for a hell of a long time. sometimes with different names for hundreds of years. But I said, what's going on? I said, I don't want to make a trade deal. No, we want to make a trade deal. I said, no, I don't want to make a trade deal with you. You're going to have a nuclear war. You guys are going to end up in a nuclear war. And that was very important to them. I said, call me back tomorrow, but we're not going to do any deals with you, or we're going to put tariffs on you that are so high. You were there, Howard, right? Yep. You're going to put tariffs on you that was so high, I don't give a damn. Your head's going to spin. You're not going to end up in a war. Within about 5 hours.
Let's now break down for you what exactly these Trump tariffs mean and what will be the impact. Indian sectors already have been hit. Some of those sectors include textiles and apparel. Now, these orders are shifting to rivals. Gems and jewellery, that's close to $10 billion industry. The exports are hit. Unfortunately, jobs are also at risk. The auto parts industry, the pharma industry, the electronics industry, their margins have now squeezed. Seafood, when we speak about shrimp exporters, they are now fearing steep losses. The big question, what could be next? Engineering goods, leather, consumable, all of them might also suffer in the long term. The impact on exports with regards to the shipments from India and US may actually fall by close to 50%. Impact when we speak about the GDP, which means the growth, how will that be impacted? It actually could just dip marginally, 0.2 to 0.4%, but this risk could be deeper if there could be a slowdown, if more penalties are imposed. So that's something that we at the moment are very closely looking at. What will be the big impact, the short-term impact and the long-term impact? My colleague Rohit Sharma is now joining me on the story. Rohit, a big question now. The tariffs are kicking in today. How do you think America has responded to Donald Trump's tariff? Now, we also understand that there is a lot of self-absorption tyranny that we are looking at coming in from the US President Donald Trump.
Well, first, I would never call it tyranny. I think that's a wrong choice of word. It is a policy of the United States right now. And yes, a lot of people are not liking, what's going on, especially, in India. But the fact of the matter is, most Americans have been honestly looking at the other things he's done. He talks about, as he said, he weaves in that conversation about how America is doing great. We don't have any more people coming in across the border. He has been able to restore faith in borders. He's been able to do a lot when it comes to restoring the jobs and economy, and the fact that he is, the inflation has not really gone as bad as people had predicted, and the stock market is up. So a lot of Americans really have not felt the pinch yet when it comes to tariff. Some of the bigger companies are absorbing those tariff costs, but looks like there will be a time in probably near future or by the end of this year, if the Americans don't have a deal with other nations, especially with China and India, we probably could see some people hurting. But as of today, when you talk about these tariffs kicking in, the tariffs have been kicking in since April when he announced with Canada and Mexico and whatnot, and he's gone back and forth. But I think most Americans are not complaining at this point in time.